So you're agnostic, but you believe in Christ.
I believe in Christ. I believe he got crucified. I don't believe he rose from the dead. I don't believe he walked on water. I don't believe he cured blindness. I believe in the like logic, science, and like physics. You know.
Yeah. Where do you think
So
these stories come from that about Jesus
you know,
healing
I
and
don't
all
know.
this?
That's why I can't like, because you got to think about it. Because there's also the Adam and Eve story. Like, how did they translate that from how like literally the beginning of like the dawn of time to now? You know.
It was revelation given to Moses.
But like you really gotta think about it. You know, it's really illogical.
What's so logical about it? You know, science have proven we came from a common ancestor, one man, one woman.
Okay, and if it did, how do we know it's Adam and Eve? How do we know
Well,
like
Adam and
there's
Eve is
proof of
just
that?
Adam and Eve can just be Adam just
It
means
could be
man.
different. It could be different people though. You got to think about it. It could have just been like the first two people, like unrelated, nothing to do with religion. You know?
Adam and Eve. Adam just means man in Hebrew. That just means
Does
he.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not like how we have names. You know what I'm saying? But he's
Yeah.
just known as Adam. Means he's just man. So where did
Okay.
everybody come from then?
Um, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know all of it. I just
No, it's okay. I know.
like the base of it, and like what I should really believe in, heaven and hell, God, all that is illogical. Like you can't tell me that I'm going to die and after I don't have any brain activity that I'm going to live another life after this one. All I think that I am is a physical being right now until I die, and then after I die I will be nothing except like memories.
So what's the point of doing anything that's good?
I don't know. I just
Do you believe that there is a good?
yeah, I believe that there's good. I believe that there's bad. I don't believe that there's heaven and hell.
So you believe a guy like Jesus, who you think was probably a good person, right?
Yeah,
And a guy like Hitler,
was a bad person.
you think they deserve to go to the same place?
No, but
Right.
it's like you're not at peace. You know, like it's not a peaceful place after you die. It's nothing.
How you know
After
that
you,
though?
I don't.
But you
But
just
I
made a
also
truth
don't know
claim.
that. But I also don't know that there's a heaven and a hell. The most logical answer to that is that when I die and I have no brain activity, there's no possible way that I can live another life. And you know what? If I died and I see the gates and I go to hell because of it, I guess so be it. I don't know.
Man, but that's satisfactory for you?
What do you mean? What is that? What?
Satisfactory for you
Um, no.
to
Like I don't get me wrong. I'd love to believe after I die I can go to heaven and see loved ones, all that. But like I can't physically make myself believe that after I die there's more. You know, like
well, I
I'd
don't think
love
you
to
have
be
to
religious.
physically make yourself believe, but you can follow the evidences of like testimony and what people said about Jesus because you said he's a good guy, but then that means you're taking, the testimony of what people wrote about him, right?
I guess.
Right. And the people said that he said that he gives eternal life
But how do you know that's true? Do you know that
because we
there's an
have
afterlife?
testimony from
Do you
from the
have?
people.
Can you prove that after you die you will have an afterlife? Can you prove it to me?
Can I prove it to you?
Can you?
I could just go by the evidences of what Jesus said because if and this is an if he
Yeah,
did
if.
rise from the dead, then he was telling the truth.
But listen, you said it yourself. That is if.
Of course.
That's the part that I can't wrap my head around. That's if. I can't believe in something that's an if. I can't believe in something that I'm not 100% sure of that I can get proof from by a scientist or
Well, you do this every
like
day.
anything like that. You
You,
know?
you believe in stuff every day that you yourself can verify for be proof.
Yeah.
So
But
what? So
it's
what's the difference
when
when it comes to Jesus?
when it's religion, religion's like you devote a lot of things to that. You know, I don't devote literally most of everything, like whole days, like an afterlife, to the like the small things that I do and just accept in life. You know,
Yeah,
religion's a
that's
different thing.
fine. That's fine. I understand what you're saying, but maybe once you believe, you can start doing that. Because if the resurrection is true,
If
then right, like we said, we can't verify 100% of anything. Like when you buy a bottle of aspirin, you depend on the person that manufactured the company that they didn't put arsenic in it and unalive you. You don't take it to a test tube, and test it to see if it was poison in it, right? So everything that you do can't be 100% verified, because then you wouldn't be able to believe in anything,
yeah,
right? So if
right.
if 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 this is true and people did see him rise from the dead after he died, then everything that he said while he was here, he was telling the truth. And we have
But
evidence for this because the Romans that persecuted him after he died, they knew what tomb he was put in, and they set guards to guard his body because they knew he had a large following. So when the body came up missing, you know what they said? Well, somebody must have stole the body. So they didn't deny that the body was missing, but they saying somebody must have stole it. But they have no evidence, and it was a uproar behind this. And the last thing that the Romans wanted to do was have Judea in Jerusalem, right, in a fritz, right, in raising up against their government. So they would have just produced the body and said, "Well, here he's right here because we know where we buried him." But instead, they came up with a story and said somebody must have stole it instead of producing the body. The most logical reasoning is he did in fact rise from the dead. You understand what I'm saying?
yeah,
Right. So, and then you have historical witnesses, even like hostile historians like Josephus in the time of Christ. He even wrote about, the followers of Christ. They believe they've seen him post resurrection. They even called him a magician. They didn't say he was from God because they was hostile against him. They even said he was a magician of sorts. So they testified to his miracle, but um, they don't have no motive to lie because they wasn't Christians. They wasn't his followers. You understand what I'm saying? So
yeah.
they don't have no motive to lie about it. I think you should probably look into it more about this because you do have a cross on your neck.
I
And
might. I do still look into religion. I do.
yeah, do you think
Like
all religions lead to God, or do you believe that there should be, if the religions is true, there is one way to get to God?
I don't know.
Yeah, because most of religions contradict each other.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it can't. All of them can't be right if they contradict. You know what I'm saying? So one of them have to be right, and the one that's verifiable by history and have a historical figure at the center of it. Besides Islam, of course, but Muhammad never died and rose from the dead. He's still dead in his grave. Jesus Christ rose from the dead. So everything that he said while he was here, he was telling the truth. If the resurrection is true.
again, if
I say if about everything. When I get in my car, I says, I hope this car is going to start right now because there's a possibility that it doesn't. But I'm relying on past experiences of me getting in my car, right? And it's cranking up. but I can't 100% verify that my car is gonna start every time I get into it. These people crazy on this app. What up, man?
What's up?
What's going on, man? Where you from?
Australia.
Australia. Okay. I was
Yeah.
looking to I was looking to talk to like about religion.
What about religion?
You believe in God?
Yeah, I'm a Muslim.
Oh, you're a Muslim. Yeah, I'm a Christian.
Uh-huh. Why you got Islam as one of your tags?
Say that one time.
Why you put Islam?
Because I want to talk to Muslims. I talk to Muslims all the time.
Why?
Because I think they have faith and they believe in God, and I think they're some of the best people to talk to as far as having a belief system, right? And you don't really have to tell them or try to convince them that God like atheists or something, right? And
Mm.
in the Quran it says that it confirms our book. So I talk to Muslims to see exactly how they interpret the Quran and see what they mean, what the Quran means, right?
About what?
About its confirming the previous scriptures of the Jews and the Christians.
Yeah, like Islam, like we believe it's just a continuation of the religion of Abraham.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah, so
right.
it's not
So
something new. It's always been there.
right, and in the Quran it says that it confirms the scriptures that came before from the people of the book.
Yeah, I think it says something like it's a authority and a clarification over the previous scriptures
Nah,
because
it never said that.
bec- huh?
I never read that in the Quran. It says that
That
it's the Muhammad, it's the guardian over it. In Surah 5, verse 48.
yeah, like I think I like from what I remember, it says it's an authority and a clarification over the previous scriptures because some things were lost, you know.
So when it's confirming the previous scriptures, you believe that the previous scriptures that it's confirming are corrupt?
Um, maybe like the message was lost, you know,
In what way?
like the belief in one God.
So people started believing in something different, but the text that they have, the Jews and the Christians have, is good.
I mean, the text you guys have now, it's you don't have it in its original text, do you?
Original text?
Yeah, because the Bible, the Injil was revealed in Aramaic.
No, it wasn't. It was
So
never
then
revealed
that
in Aramaic.
what was it revealed in?
It was revealed in Greek. The word Injil comes from the Greek word Evangelion. So that was a Greek book.
So Jesus spoke Greek.
Yeah. He was able to talk to Roman centurions, and he was able to talk to the Roman pontiff, Pontius Pilate, during his trial. Jesus spoke Greek. Most Jews at that time spoke Greek because Rome had conquered them for over about 300 years by the time Jesus came. So it was pretty much mandatory if you want to trade and buy and all of this for it to speak Greek.
Mm,
Greek was the common language of that area. So yeah,
okay.
Jesus spoke Greek. He spoke Aramaic. We see him speaking
Yeah.
Aramaic in the Bible, and he also spoke and read Hebrew.
But okay, I'll give you that point. But then still, the fact that you guys believe in the triune God, lets us know that you guys diverted from the original message. From what we believe, from our point of view.
Well, we can see the triune God mentioned all through scriptures, from even from the Hebrew Bible, from the Old Testament. Yep.
I mean, does it say anywhere in the Bible exactly?
As far as what, like the word Trinity?
Yeah, what you guys believe in the triune God?
Yeah, it doesn't use the term Trinity. It doesn't use the word Trinity. That was a term to let us know the concept of what we believe in. But the concept is there the whole time.
Mm. Yeah,
Like,
that's where we differ. That's where we differ from you guys. Because in the Quran, it also says that it says like I think on the day of judgment, God will ask uh Jesus, peace be upon him,
mm-hmm.
did I ever tell you to tell the people you were God and to worship me? And he said, no, I was never told to say that, and I would never say that.
He actually said, yeah, he said that, and he said, you worship your mother alongside you. That's not what we believe. We don't worship Mary.
But you worship Jesus, don't you, as God?
Yeah, Jesus. He says he's God in the Bible. The same scriptures that your Quran confirms.
Yeah, but the Quran says he wasn't God; that he was just he was a messenger of God.
Right.
So
So
that's
now
where we
we have
differ.
a right. So now we have a dilemma on our hands because your Quran confirmed those scriptures. Where he said he
No,
was
no,
God.
it says it's an authority and a clarification over the previous scriptures. So
Do,
it came the Quran came to correct what was revealed before.
do you have a verse that says this?
Not on me right now, but from what I've read and what I remember, that's what I can tell you.
Right. I read the Quran pretty often, and I've never seen that verse. It never says it comes to correct the previous scriptures. It only says that it comes confirming what the Jews and the
Mm.
Christians have. Now, in the 7th century, if the previous scriptures were corrupt, that means that Allah is confirming corrupted scriptures. Would make Islam false because it's confirming something that's false.
But I just said from what I remember and what I read, it says it also clarifies, you know, because the original message Tawheed, the belief in one God, was lost,
Yeah, well, we
and
believe
that's.
in one God.
Mm.
The Christians believe in
But
one God.
you just said you believe in a triune God.
Yeah, but they're one God. It's one being. One being is God. He just exists as three divine persons within that one being.
That doesn't make sense.
What doesn't make sense about it?
Three in one. How can you have three in one?
Do you think God should exist like we exist? Or he should be unique in his essence, in his being?
Yeah, obviously we're different to God. God is the
Exactly.
creator.
Right. So if I'm just one and I'm just one being, me, you see me,
Mhm.
I'm one being, then God will be just like me.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Why? What? Like you believe in all the prophets before Jesus, well, right?
Hmm.
So why would God have sent all these prophets and then send Himself? Wouldn't it make more sense that Jesus was just a prophet like all the other prophets?
Well, no, because this is prophesied from the very beginning that God will come down, right, and dwell amongst us. We can see this in the prophet Isaiah. We even see it in early Genesis. When Genesis, Abraham spoke directly to God face to face, and he appeared as a man in front of him. Right? If you read Genesis 18, Genesis 15, Genesis 19, in Genesis 19, that same
Mm,
angel or man that spoke to Abraham, he identified
yeah.
himself to be God. And then they went to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And then it says that God, Yahweh rained down fire and brimstone on Sodom and Gomorrah from Yahweh out of heaven. So we see two persons identified as Yahweh, even in the old scriptures with Abraham.
It's just it's very confusing, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if I think it can if you don't understand exactly what you're reading, but if you read it from start to finish, you'll see that this was always meant to happen. Because in the prophet Isaiah, like
It
in Isaiah,
seems it seems like you have to really look for that in the Bible. Like it doesn't say clear cut.
sure, but in even in the Bible, it says seek the scriptures, right? Seek them
Mm,
and understand them and read them,
mm.
right? So you can, uh, you know, understand exactly what you're reading. I can say the same thing about the Quran. In the Quran, you don't get that, everything about Allah, his divine attributes and how he exists, right? You have to go to
The
like
Quran
sheikhs and
says
imams.
the Quran is a clear and concise guide. You know,
Yeah, it
that's
also
what it's.
says that some of these verses are elusive, that only Allah knows them. The knowledge is
Okay.
only with Allah. Just like Alif Lam Mim, uh,
Mm.
you know what I'm saying? Alif Lam Ra. No one knows what that means. Only Allah knows that.
Yeah, but the rest of it, like me, the rest is clear. It's a clear guide for mankind.
Yeah, but how do you know what verses are clear and what verses are unclear? Because according to Surah 3, Al Imran,
Mm,
verse 7, ayah 7, says some of these verses are clear, right? And some of these verses are unclear,
mm.
and their meanings are only with Allah. So how do you know which ones are clear and which ones are not?
Nah, nah. Like I think that means like depending on that person's faith, uh, they will have like a different ability, like to understand the Quran. Like if you have a clean heart and you're sincere, your belief will be different. You know, you'll be able to obtain a different level of understanding. You know,
Yeah, but
I
it
think that's
says,
what.
yeah, I understand what you're saying because I believe that some people, as long more and more you study, you can get to, different
Yeah.
levels of understanding of religious text. But in this
Mm.
verse, it says that only Allah knows these unclear verses. So it don't matter how much you study. Some of these verses is only Allah can understand them, and Allah knows what they mean. You see what I mean?
Mm. No, I think that's just like when you say like alif lam ra, alif lam mim.
Yeah, but
I think it's just those points.
you agree that the verse does say that, right? That some of these verses are unclear and only Allah knows them.
Yeah, but I just explained my understanding of the.
No, I know. I'm just saying you do understand. I mean, you do agree that Allah only supposedly, according to the text, only Allah knows these verses and what they mean.
Yeah, but depending on how much you studied the Quran and how sincere you are, you know, the more that will be revealed to you.
So other people do know these verses.
Specifically about alif lam ra and alif
Well,
lam mim.
that was just an example that we ain't gotta just talk about that specific verses. Those beginning those three words at the beginning of
But
most verses.
that's what you brought up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was just using that as an example
Can you give me another example?
of what is clear or what's unclear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's say Surah. I wonder can I put it up on my phone and maybe you can see it.
You streaming?
No, not right now. I do stream, but I'm not streaming right now. I have
Okay,
a YouTube channel.
you got the whole setup.
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel where I stream, and I talk to a lot of Muslims. I talk to a lot of Muslims on TikTok, and
Mm,
also I talk to a lot of Muslims on YouTube. Um,
uh,
so That's what
What's your channel name?
it's called The Word, and I will put it in this chat if you can see it.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
Yeah, you can swing by one time, man, and we can have a discussion. I got a lot of people from Australia that actually supports the channel as well.
That's crazy. Mm.
Let me see if I can bring up the Quran real quick, so I can.
Yeah, you seem like you're pretty knowledgeable about the Quran.
Yeah, I've been studying Islam maybe for the last 2 years, maybe. You know, um, and I didn't start. You know what made me start? Because I started
Yeah,
opening up lives, like talking to just about Christianity, and I got a lot of Muslims started coming into my live streams. You know, challenging me. You know, on very things that you're challenging me on right now, like the Trinity and our scriptures being corrupt and all of that. So I wasn't very familiar with Islam, you know. So I had to equip myself to handle the amount of Muslims that just kept coming up and just, you know, grilling me. So I was like, you know what, I'm a learn Islam so I can talk to them. We can be almost on fair footing, right?
yeah,
So that's what got me into this. Um,
that's good. That's good.
so let me go to here. Okay, I don't know if you can see this, but I'll try to make it focus. This is the Quran. I'm just showing you that this is Quran,
Yeah,
right? And this is Surah 17,
yeah,
Al Isra,
yeah,
right? And it says, "Glory be to the one who took his servant by night from the sacred mosque to the furthest mosque, whose surrounding we have blessed, so that we may show him some of our signs. Indeed, he alone is the all hearing and all seeing." Now, who's this servant in this verse?
I think that's talking about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Right, but it never says his name. It never says it's Muhammad, right? But because if you read the next verse, it starts talking about Moses. If you man like a
Mm.
you see the next verse, it says, "And we gave Moses the scripture and made it a guide for the children of Israel, stating, 'Do not take besides me any other trustee or of affairs.'" Right. So the first verse is talking about his servant, but then the
Yeah,
next verse it says it's talking about Moses. And I talked to a lot of Muslims that say, well, you know, that is about Muhammad, because we have in the Hadith the Isra Miraj, or the night journey, to where he went to
yeah,
heaven and then he ended up going from Masjid Haram to Masjid Al-Aqsa Mosque in
yeah.
Jerusalem. But it never says any of that in the Quran. It just says the nearest Mars, right? I'm his servant. But y'all believe that all of his prophets was his servant, right? Even you a servant,
Mm.
right? And what makes it goes off and be curious is like, well, it talks about Moses in the next verse. So if I didn't have like a tafsir or anyone to explain this to me, I
Mm.
would think this is talking about Moses, because the very next verse is talking about Moses. I wouldn't think this is about Muhammad, right? And then it says the sacred mosque. Oh, so where's the sacred mosque? It never says, you know, the Kaaba, you know, and people will tell me,
Yeah,
well, that's the Kaaba. Okay,
mm.
it doesn't say it. You know what I'm saying? And the farthest
Yeah.
mosque. Where's the farthest mosque? Well, that's
But that,
Jerusalem, Al
yeah.
Aqsa. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So this is when I'm reading this, I will get a whole
Mm.
different interpretation about this verse or this beginning of this chapter without someone else or a scholar telling me this. So that can be clear or unclear, you know?
I mean, the first mosque, Masjid Al Haram.
Hmm.
Where is it located?
It doesn't say here in this verse.
But we know today, Masjid Haram is located in Mecca, Saudi Arabia,
Yeah, I
which is
know. I
where.
know that's what y'all tell me. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. This verse here is it's not clear. It doesn't tells us this Masjid Haram, or it just says the sacred mosque to the farthest mosque. You know what I'm saying?
But which prophet was from that area?
Well, you believe that all the prophets went to Mecca, don't you?
Nah, nah,
You don't?
nah, nah. I don't think so. Where did you get that from?
Yeah, it's a narration that says that all of the prophets went to Mecca and did Hajj, except for like maybe four of them.
Mm,
This is matter of fact. I wish I can bring up a source on this so you can see it. Um,
okay,
I could just Google it for you so you can so you won't know so you
but
won't think
like
I'm lying to you.
I'm not sure, so I can't speak on that. But I mean, like, what's the problem with that verse? Like, what are you getting at, basically? Like, you know.
Yeah, it's just it's unclear to me because we have multiple servants of Allah, right?
Mm,
And we have a different mosque, right? Of
mm,
one in Mecca, Medina, or different places. So
mm,
it doesn't tell us exactly what a sacred mosque is. And then it says the furthest mosque. Okay, the furthest mosque, where like it doesn't tell us what that is and what mosque that is either. And then it right after it talks about Moses. So you would think that all of this, if we reading this right in succession, you would think this is all about Moses. But Muslims tell us no, this is about Muhammad. But why does it talk about Moses the very next verse? So it's not totally clear. This was what we was talking about, the clear and unclear verses. And you asked me what is unclear
yeah.
about another verse in the Quran that's unclear. And I just brought that up for example.
Mm. To me, that seems like you're really digging. You know, you're really digging for a problem. You know.
No, I'm not saying it you can have your own narrations, right? I have no problem with tafsir and people explaining it, and you know what I mean, like people of
Mm,
knowledge explaining it. But when your Quran say that it's clear about things in his book, I expect the book to be clear. You know what I'm saying? That's all. That's all I was getting at.
mm. I mean, I think it's pretty clear. You know.
If that's what you think, you know, but I don't get any of that from that verse. That's all I'm saying. Because it says Moses. The next verse is talking about Moses. Like if you was to read a book and then it's saying, well, you know, this guy got up and he went to the store, he met a girl and he did this. And then the next verse, the next little paragraph, it says, and also Steve went and he went to a basketball game. You would think that's talking about Steve, that whole context, because it doesn't separate. It doesn't tell you exactly who that first guy was. You see what I
Hmm.
mean?
To me, it seems like you're looking for something that's not really there.
You can, I mean, you can have your own opinion. That's no problem. But to me, if
Hmm.
I'm reading it, I wouldn't know that was Muhammad because the verse doesn't say it.
I mean, I'm not too sure about that verse and that chapter. So you know, context is everything. Maybe if I was to go through the whole chapter, and it might be that it's clear, you know, because like me, I'm a layman. You're speaking to a layman. I'm just your everyday Muslim in the West, right? And also yourself, you know, admittedly, you're not that knowledgeable about Islam. You've only been studying it for a couple years. So I think like if we were to learn Arabic and be able to read the Quran, I think it would be it would be more clear. I think it's unfair to say something is unclear when you can't read it in the original language. You know,
You know Arabic?
a little bit.
You know, 80s, like 85% of Muslims don't know Arabic. So if 85% of the Muslims don't fully understand their Quran because they don't read it in the original language of Arabic.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody that speaks multiple languages, I know that when you translate words, things get lost in translation. So if you want to be able to like, especially argue the Quran, and you want to be able to talk about these topics, you gotta be able to understand the Quran, like I mean Arabic properly.
Can a name get lost in translation?
Can a name
Yeah.
can a name be lost in translation? Hmm. Not sure about that one.
Right. Like a name is a name. So if even if you're translating things from, because even though I speak English, we still say Muhammad, just like Arabic people. So that name
Mm,
is always going to be, Muhammad or some variation of that name, Mahmed or Mahmoud or whatever language you speak in, that name
mm,
would still be there, right? So, but we still don't see that name in the text. That's my point.
what name? Oh,
Muhammad.
Muhammad.
Yeah,
Mm. I mean, names and words are different, you know.
exactly. Because we see it says Moses. It literally says Moses in the next verse. And no matter, Moses, Musa, that name is there, right? In the
Mm,
very next verse. But we don't see that in that the verse before it, to let you know and identify who that servant is.
but you have the locations there, you know.
Yeah, it just says the sacred mosque and the furthest mosque. The furthest mosque could be in China. The furthest mosque can be somewhere else. It doesn't say Al Aqsa Mosque. It says the furthest mosque. So that furthest mosque can be anywhere. I don't know. I don't know where it's pointing me to. I don't know where that servant went. Just a general description, the furthest mosque, you know? So it's not totally
Yeah,
clear on that.
I think if we speak to like people of knowledge, they'll be able to better understand. I mean, give you a better understanding and explanation, of these verses.
Yeah. I didn't talk to scholars. Um I talked
Mm,
to a couple of sheikhs. I didn't talk to a couple of imams,
yeah,
and some of these
and
questions that I
yeah,
raised, they don't have no answers for them. Just like the previous scriptures being corrupt and such, they can't solve these things because if the
which which imams did he talk to? Which
I talked to a couple of imams that's on TikTok. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. This was maybe 6 months ago. I didn't talk to Khalil Andani. Khalil Andani.
never.
He's a scholar. Well,
Mm,
he's big like on the social media world. I didn't talk to
mm,
like Jake the Muslim metaphysician. I didn't talk to a whole bunch of them guys, man.
mm.
And most of them
And
they
what
don't.
what did what did they say about this verse?
I didn't bring this verse in particular to um
Mm,
like Jake or the imam. We just mainly talked about the previous scriptures and how the Quran views the previous scriptures. You know, that's what I mostly talk to them about.
Yeah, yeah. I think if you were to speak to somebody more knowledgeable than me, a scholar, a person of knowledge, they'd be able to, answer this question better. Um, but like the reason why a lot of people are like interested in Islam and why they follow Islam, because like it's got an answer for everything, you know.
I don't think it do.
I mean, obviously that's why you don't follow it.
I like you, man.
Yeah, yeah. You're still like you're still in the beginning phases of learning about Islam. I think if you seem like a pretty sincere guy. I think if you keep an open heart and you learn it from proper scholars, not people trying to just defend their religion, you know. I think I think you could become Muslim, you know.
I hear that a lot. I
Mm,
do, and I always tell them like I think I know enough about
yeah.
Islam to where,
Mm,
no, don't get me wrong. I don't think I know everything about Islam. That's not what I'm saying. But I think I know
mm,
enough about Islam to where it's gonna have to be a miracle of some sort for me to become
mm,
Muslim. And one of the and I did when I first started, I read the Quran sincerely just to see,
mm,
because if there was another prophet
mm,
that Jesus spoke about, because your Quran says that Jesus spoke about Ahmed to come, right?
mm,
Then of course I believe Jesus was a very truthful guy, and I will want to
yeah,
see exactly, does this is this prophet true? So I
mm,
did. I read it with a open mind, not trying to be biased, because I went through a phase to where, I wanted to put my own religion under the microscope and test it out. You know what I'm saying? So
mm.
I was like,
That's
well,
good.
let me clear my mind and let me see and let me try to follow the truth about wherever it leads me to. You know what I'm saying? Like wherever it leads me to. Quran says Jesus mentioned Ahmed. Okay, if Jesus mentioned Muhammad, I will follow Muhammad, right? But we don't
Mm,
see Jesus mention Muhammad nowhere in no scripture. And the crucifixion of Jesus, that's what really like toppled me over, because all of history and historians and contemporaries and scholars and everyone verifiably says that Jesus was crucified, and the Quran is basically the only, not the only book, but it's making a claim that Jesus wasn't in fact crucified. So it's going against all of the
I
historical
mean,
evidence.
it says that God made it appear as if he was
Right.
killed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that a crucifixion could have happened, but
Hmm.
it could have been that somebody else was crucified.
Right. And you believe that, and I granted, I even granted that part. You know what I'm saying? Maybe,
Mm,
it was made to appear so. But what don't make sense to me is he was already rose to heaven. According to the Quran, he already was risen up to heaven. He was already with Allah. Then why even make it look like it was crucified? That don't it, why he's safe already. Why does it? Why do you now have to make someone look like him to make it look like he was crucified? That don't why? Because he's already
I
safe in
mean,
heaven, you know?
Allahu alim, Allah knows best.
Yeah, I know, but that's not an explanation. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, it would have to make sense to, because I don't think God does anything without a purpose. You know what I'm saying? And I think you believe that as well. Um, he left. Bro ran.